A very warm welcome back, and thank you so much for joining us again on this edition of The Point. And this is Smart 24 TV, where we drive your business. Remember, Smart 24 TV is on channel 372 DSTV and channel 394 GOTV, where you can catch your latest content on business here in East Africa and in Uganda. Of course, we pledge to support businesses here in Uganda to grow and also support the businessman himself as well by providing the latest information in the world of business. Today we are talking the East African community integration and what it has in store for you, especially the young people. We want to understand the pillars of this integration. We want to understand what they really have in store for us as East Africans, not just Ugandans, Tanzanians and Kenyans or Somalis, but as East Africans. And I'm talking with a gentleman from the East African Youth Network. Now, I'll come back to you, Mr. Tusime rather. When we talk about the political federation, it excites the young people because many young people, like it or not, have become so interested in politics and leadership in the current day and age. Gone are the days when politics was for only the old people, and you've realized how important young people are in the politics and leadership of our country. Now, when we talk about the East African integration and the pillars therein, we have just displayed that political federation was put at the end after customs, common market, and the monetary union. We haven't realized at least all those pillars yet. But some people have the view that if we had a political federation, then all these other pillars would fall in line. Let's say, for example, the monetary union. We understand we don't have a single currency. We still have battles with our currencies, with the Kenyan currency being the strongest at the moment. And that is working in favor of the Kenyan market. And it doesn't work in favor of us with the weaker currency. But then young people are saying, what does the political federation have in store? Does it mean that if we have a president, a single president, probably for East Africa, or are we going to have, for example, the way United States has governors in each state, and then they have a single president, but then the states are federal states. They do have their own political leadership. Is this what the political federation actually envisages and what it encompasses as well?
Thank you so much, Anthony and colleague. When you look at the treaty that establishes the East African community, it puts the people at the center. Actually, it talks about a people-centered and market-driven economy and community. And that means that the East African community, the East Africans, will choose on how to be governed when we go to political federation. And when we look at how we would want the political federation to be, it's a harmonization of the laws within the region. Because currently, when you look at how the community is, it has its organs. For example, the East African Secretariat. You realize that we have the summit, which is actually the topmost organ of the community, the East African community, led by the presidents. Then after that, we have the Council of Ministers. We have even the East African Court of Justice. We have the East African Legislative Assembly. We have the East African Secretariat. And when you look at that, it shows you how, if we are to go into the political federation, how we'll be governed. For example, right now, we have the summit, which is leading. So if we say the chair of the summit is the one who is leading the community at the moment, let it be, now we look at the political side of it, that person maybe will be like a head of government in the EAC. Now we have our Council of Ministers, we have our regional parliament. Now the role of the regional parliament is to harmonize all the laws within the region. Because look at, in Uganda right now we are grappling with an issue of traffic laws. You have very many laws, but they are not implemented. But when you cross to Rwanda, they have actually a very good system that is managing road carnage and how traffic regulations are moving. That means that we in Uganda, whereas we have a law, we have a gap of implementation. Now, when we have one government, we are going to have harmonized laws that are looking at even harmonized implementation. Look at the tax regimes in the region. You will go to Rwanda, you find this kind of tax in communication. You come to Kenya, you find another tax which is different.
And then we are talking about the customs union.
Customs union. Now, when we harmonize all these things, because the laws are there, but the issue is harmonization. And what the political federation, in my own view, will bring is removing these issues of sovereignty. That, you know what, I'm a sovereign state. I have the power to do whatever I want in my own state. But you already signed these laws that are supposed to be implemented in that particular state. So what political federation will cure will be these issues of sovereignty. Will be one, first of all, we harmonize all the laws. If it's tax, we are the same. If, for example, we are now looking at infrastructure development on the Kisumu to Maraba highway, we are going to work. The ESC has already gotten funds to connect that route. So you will find that when we are constructing in Kenya, they will have different land laws on compensation, on repatriation, and maybe taking people resettlement. Now, when you come to Uganda, you find a different thing now on resettlement, compensation, and all that. But once we have our political federation, I believe we are going to cure all those issues, because most of the bottlenecks that are happening now is because of these issues of harmonization of laws. Now, you have seen the issue of peace in DRC. Rwanda says our people are supposed to get land from Eastern DRC. It's a contentious issue, but for us, we don't fear to talk about it. Then the people in DRC are also saying we want this. And where the impasse is, the EAC has not come out clearly with a strong voice, because we still have these issues of what? Of sovereignty. Now Uganda fears to call Rwanda to order, because Rwanda is a sovereign state. They have their own laws, they can do whatever they want. So once we have a political federation, it doesn't matter who. Me and Paul, though we are in diplomacy, sometimes we talk about politics. But one thing we normally talk about is it doesn't matter who is the president. What matters is what is going to be done. Because if it is people-centered, why would you want to focus on heads of state? No. Now, the issue of awareness comes in. That what the East Africa Youth Network is doing is to take the integration agenda to the grassroots. We are targeting young people as far as 5 in schools through the East African community clubs, to ensure that they understand what is this animal called East African community. How do I benefit? Is it about President Ruto? Is it about His Excellency Paul Kagame or Felix Tshisekedi or President Museveni? No. The integration is about people who are on those borders and are suffering because they can't trade together. Because a young person cannot go to Tanzania and study at the same tuition with the Ugandan, though it has been harmonized. Because someone cannot move freely, because now Somalia is coming in. I think by the end of this year will be 8. So a refugee in Kisenyi who is a Somali cannot get health services in Uganda because he is just registered as a refugee. Yet we are the same people, you get? No. So we are saying the integration should be looking at the social aspect, not the political aspect. And once the people get to understand, because you see now, people know that I have the right to live, marry, work from anywhere, because the treaty that introduces the East African community talks about everyone staying in, because we are supposed to have geographical borders, and those borders are supposed to be removed so that people can move freely, trade freely, work without any hindrance, without any visa issues. So that is the integration we are talking about. And once the people get to understand the advantages, I'm telling you, even these leaders will, because we are the leaders, for God's sake. Once, because I know we are all converted here on this table, so that is 100%. So once we achieve 100% in all the 8 partner states, because Somalia is coming, I think we'll get our own president, and we'll now look for a way how to govern ourselves. We can choose to take the leadership of USA. We can choose to continue with the system in UK, or we are Africans, we can choose on a way how we are going to govern ourselves. But what I want to tell young people out there is that doesn't matter who will be leading us. What matters is what is on ground. Do we have infrastructure? Can we trade together? We are now 300 million. Can we remove all those trade barriers? That is two. Can we now harmonize all the laws within the region? And we say, if Uganda is saying that we need a minimum wage, the whole of East Africa should get one. If we are saying we need an East African shilling, what stops us? Because in 1960s, before 77, we had an East African shilling, and that shilling was there. And we actually have our commissions, because if you talk about the Kasoa civil aviation, we have the Lake Victoria Basin, we have our University of East Africa, we have East African Science and Technology Commission, Kiswahili Commission. All those commissions are there. We used to have the East African Airways. We can revive it, though our brothers in Kenya took the assets. But
and all our airlines are struggling at the moment. But if you compare East African Airlines to Ethiopian Airlines alone, all of them combined.
Because we are small. Now imagine if we have a country like Uganda, or Burundi, which has maybe 30 or 20 million people, and you have an airline. Uganda also has an airline, the other one also has. It is going to be hard to compete. But what if we had East African Airlines and we have 300 million people, all of them using that airline? We will not be struggling. So now you see that we really need this political federation.
We are going to get back to that issue of the infrastructure development, and especially the airline business. I love the airline business because I've seen so much potential that we have here that we are not exploiting. Today, it is more expensive to fly out of Uganda to Kenya than it is to actually fly to countries like Cairo. In Egypt, in Cairo. And that's working to our disadvantage. But Mr. Okundo, as we wind up on this point of political federation, in one of his books, Mr. Mwinyi, who was the president then of Tanzania, recalls that on a certain day in October in 1991, when he and other counterparts gathered in Zimbabwe, in the capital, that is Harare, for the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, there Mwinyi, Moi, and Museveni had a few conversations and engaged each other in how to actually separate the conclave, where they agreed to leave the antagonism aside and leave the past and pursue a new cooperation with the view that East Africa would become a confederation. It would become a one state as it was before its collapse. Do you think political federation will be able to support this dream that Mwinyi had, or it will actually separate us even more? Because when you look at, for example, countries like South Sudan, the East African community has done a lot in the pacification of South Sudan. And I have the belief that if Somalia finally joins the East African bloc, we will do something even more. Of course, a lot has been done already, but definitely more can be done to pacify the region. Do you think political federation is part of the solution here?
Okay, thank you so much. I think I will build on what my colleague Jack said. For us to achieve anything under the EAC, even the framers of, the people who designed the strategy of how we are going to, move from step to step up to the political federation, brought in the aspect of it is a people-centered, then private sector-led or market-led. So for me, the reason why they brought the idea of people-centered, so the idea is whatever people want will be achieved. So now, all these other steps, the first steps, are to have people on board to understand the benefits of this integration. When we talk of, I think the best strategy is we must first show people why is it important for us to integrate. When Jack was talking about the issues of peace and security, what is happening in Congo? You see, we leaders normally talk of sovereignty when they are peaceful and things are okay. But when a war erupted in Eastern Congo, you saw the president of Congo reaching out to, the summit, to EAC, saying, well, I'm under attack, or where is EAC? I just joined, I need to be defended. So clearly that shows that the integration has some good results. And actually they sent in forces and they are trying to stabilize the Eastern Congo as the discussions are going on. So when we achieve that, clearly now the East Africans will now see the importance of integrating. I think if we continue that strategy of showing the benefits of joining that community, clearly people will start to appreciate why we need to come together as people, as countries, and forget about this business of I am a Uganda, I am a president of this country, of this smaller country, I'm a president of this smaller country, and all that. For my think, for us to achieve that, we must emphasize why integrating is important by actually showing people that this is what the EAC so far has achieved, and this is what we are planning to do. Then coming back to where young people also join in, you see the demographic composition of the East Africa. It favors us as young people because we are the majority. So when they talk of people-centered, they are not talking about anybody else. They are talking about us who are the majority within the community. So if there is a war in Congo that is happening, most of the people who are suffering are young people. So what are the young people in these other communities, or in these other states, what are they saying? Young people must come out and say, for us, we want peace. We want a peaceful community. So as we are able to do our business, to share knowledge, to trade, to allow students move to universities, because the free movement of people now encourages harmonization of education, where they no longer charge fees for international students who are within the EC, which is also one of the things that we need to share within the region, so that people can know that when you come to Makerere and you're from Congo, you pay the same tuition, just like a Ugandan who is here. So to have that platform that allows us to share knowledge, to go to University of Nairobi and pay the same fees like the Kenyans, it is very, very important for us. And for me, I believe that before we even, because I think the strategy that was developed, for me, I believe it is on point. Because they know the politics. For us people somehow we're integrated, because like people at the borders, they cross, they share BCD, they carry out their business. No one stops them. Yeah. But these politicians, when it comes to at the high level, they now complicate things. So for me, I'm like, if you take it that how they are designed it, it will help the people to first integrate. Then after, we shall now break all the barriers of these leaders who are stopping us to fully integrate, because you find that there are so many barriers that are in place. But the good thing, I know very many people in Uganda we really loved the former president who died of Tanzania, John Pombe Magufuli. But surprisingly, during his time, Tanzania had almost 160 something NTBs, non-tariff barriers, that were actually, like trying to not allow people to move freely in Tanzania. Like, so when this the current president came in, Suluhu, yes, they reduced those from 164 to almost 21 NTBs. So clearly that one shows if we have a leader that has a vision of uniting the community, then really we're on track. And I'm really also very glad that the president in the backyard here in Kenya, he's pushing the same thing, he's pushing for the integration seriously. So the moment we have leaders also on board, then that means we shall fully integrate, we shall really achieve this in a record time. If we abandon the spirits of, start seeing President Museveni as if he wants to be the president of the EAC and not looking at the bigger picture, when we have one president with, states with their own, let's say, governors, prime ministers and all that, but we have harmonized laws that actually help us to, push policies. Of course, the idea is if Rwanda has a good policy, then we borrow that. It becomes the policy for the entire community. If we have a gap in implementation, how are they doing it in Kenya? If they are doing it better way, then we adopt that. And you find we have the best policies, the best implementation strategy for our region, and there will be really nothing else other than, developing our area. That's what I think. Yeah.
Wow, absolutely. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your wonderful insights. We are taking another break, but when we return, Mr. Rukundo, Mr. Jack, we want to talk about whether the implementation of, for example, now we just looking beyond the region, the African free continental trade. I don't know if I'm getting it.
Yeah.
The African continental free trade area. Yes, would hasten the continent's problems, such as the post-pandemic recovery. Currently, what we are looking at the moment as an economy, the enhancement of climate change resilience, and as well as the underpinning of stability in the face of multiple regional and global crises, and of course including energy volatility in the region. Now when you look at, for example, Kenya, it's championing a lot more in the region, especially when it comes to the African continental free trade area. And beyond ratifying the instruments of this establishment, it's also domesticating the framework of the African continental free trade area. Are we going to realize the same here in Uganda? And what is the role of the youth? That's after this very short break. You're watching Smart 24 TV, and this is The Point.
Smart 24, driving business.
This is Jordan. When it comes to classwork, Jordan is magic. Jordan shines. Jordan makes his peers better. Jordan is a true leader. White Star Magic family, be a leader, be magic.